So thanks 3D for introducing our free-range organic ingredients. So it's time to get cooking. So some advanced features for NetSuite we'll be going through today are, how to use like standard custom objects, standard custom fields, custom segments, save searches with join objects, kind of like API call optimization, uh, file management, posting transaction summary. I think it's just kind of like a formula mode that on the Workato side. So I'll be going through various use cases and doing some demos along with it, and I'll point out all these features of the connector that we're using as we go along. So for the first use case, I think we see a lot of integrations on Workato for in the non-for-profit vertical. And I think a lot of the times we see, the records being synced are constituents, donors, donations, grants, and this frequent applications we see connected are Salesforce and NetSuite, sometimes like, Blackboard applications like RE, NXT. So, let me kind of jump into an integration that does exactly that. So this is a Workato recipe that I've built and have ran a couple of times. So as you can see, this recipe listens to new or updated constituents in Razor's Edge NXT, and whenever this event happens, it tries to search for an existing contact in NetSuite by the external ID. So if a contact record is found in NetSuite, then we update the record. So if you can see, if I open the action, we're going to update it by external, identify the record to update by the external ID, and pass in what you want to update. So in my case, I'm only updating the mobile number, but there are 62 available fields that I can update in this NetSuite contact record. And if my search in NetSuite does not return anything, then I know this contact doesn't exist, and therefore I can create a standard record object, standard contact record in NetSuite, and this is my mapping. So let me kind of close this and go to the jobs, and I can just do a quick test. So when I click on test, what it's going to do is it will go into RE NXT to find any applicable event that has recently happened and pull it in. And as you can see, I've clicked on test, so it just fetched me this new RE NXT contact called Nicole Dustin. And I'm logged in here in RE NXT. Oh, it appears I'm not. So let's log in. And let's try to locate our NXT contact constituent. So the constituent has an ID of 200. So let's put that in and find Nicole Dustin. And as you can see, so we find that this is our contact, and she has the following information: mobile number, phone number, email address, maybe not email. So, and my recipe has synced Nicole into NetSuite as with the NetSuite ID of 64941. So let's take a look at NetSuite and 64941 and try to locate our new contact. And we see that, we have the same, we have successfully synced this contact into NetSuite, retaining the mobile phone number and her addresses and stuff like that. So whatever we have mapped in the recipe will be pushed from the trigger application into the action application. So in this case, of course, I am updating and creating only a certain subset of fields, but this is all highly customizable. We can always add new fields to to write to, middle name, title, phone, fax. And at the same time, you can always choose to write something else. So if you don't want to write to a contact, if you want to write to a lead, or you want to write to an opportunity, or you want to write to a customer, all of this can be easily changeable in using the NetSuite connector. So, how easy is it to really build a quick recipe by yourself? Let me show you, like I built this, I think in 20 minutes last night. So I can do, let me just quickly bring you through a recipe and show how we can build something ourselves. So, using the same logic, we could say, let's sync a constituent from Salesforce and say new updated object in Salesforce. Let's connect and choose the right Salesforce connection. So once I'm connected to Salesforce, Workato will pull all the custom and standard objects in Salesforce and lets me read or write to it. So in this case, let's select a Salesforce contact and say, okay, this is what we want. Let's go next. And every time a new contact is created in Salesforce, go ahead and create a new contact in NetSuite as well. So add a standard record, and Workato is suggesting that I add a contact. So okay, let's do that. Next. And I can go ahead and say that when I'm adding a contact, I want to write to external ID. I want to write to the name, first name, last name, maybe also company name. Oh, there's no company name. Let's stop at that, say okay. And I'll do the mapping. So from my new Salesforce contact, I want to move my contact ID into external ID. I'm going to move my first name from Salesforce and my last name from Salesforce. And I click on finish, and that's it. You can start testing, you can add more steps to manage duplication, do a search in NetSuite, edit if it's not there, update it if it's there, etc., etc. So it is as easy as that to build.
So Dylan, if you go back to when you're doing the mapping.
That's right.
So I saw something that you could. There was a suggestion for the what you call the data pail, right?
That is right.
So how does that work?
So suggestions are based on a machine learning algorithm that Workato has on our platform. And what we do is we kind of analyze what other people have been building, and we suggest recommended mappings or recommended actions with whatever you have right now. So in this case, I'm trying to write to NetSuite contact and first name. And Workato understands that I'm trying to sync data from Salesforce into NetSuite, so it's suggesting that I use the first name pair from Salesforce. Same thing goes for action. As you can see, when I add a new action and I say, okay, I want NetSuite, Workato suggests certain things, certain actions to carry out based on what it understands are relevant actions from the machine learning algorithm.
Okay. And
Cool.
Typically when you're mapping, the first name, last name
That's
from
right.
one application to another.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say in case of NetSuite, how the custom field is set, if it's a name, so where you have to concatenate the first name and last name, right? So can you do that with Workato? How do you? I think concatenation is a simple manipulation of data, but if you have to, for example, use some kind of Excel-like formulas to manipulate data, so can you show how it can be done with Workato?
Whoa, Tridi, you're jumping into the deep end right away. So, yes, of course, we can do that. So if you hover onto any input field, you see this two text and formula toggles. So text is just, simple data mapping, moving of data from A to B. But formula allows you to transform that data before moving it into the destination application. So for example, let's take a very simple use case. So oh, whoa. So maybe in my source application, I don't have first name and last name nicely. I have a full name. So what I can do here is I use a formula to say, all right, split this full name up by space and give me the first item. And then I can do the same thing here, toggle it to formula. Let's copy this whole thing and I move it over and say split by a space and give me last name. Give me the last item. So this is how I could also do the same thing.
Okay.
And move first name and last name into
Nice.
NetSuite. So, and we offer, like in this formula mode, it is essentially a bunch of Ruby methods that we offer. And you can browse these methods and you can always hover on a question mark to find out how exactly to use it. We also have like documentation that brings you in to more detailed examples.
Okay. Thanks, Ellen.
No worries, Treaty. All right, so I think we've gone through those, the not-for-profit use cases. I just wanted to quickly touch on the concept of a multi-application recipe. So this is also for the not-for-profit use case, going in the other direction. So I think the first one was from RNX to NetSuite. We're syncing new and updated. You can also sync only new. So in those kind of cases, it's I guess it's more straightforward because you're only moving um, records whenever they are created. So you can move new contacts in Salesforce into NetSuite, and you do the same thing. Search if it's not present, then add. Otherwise, if it's already present, you don't want to do anything, right? Because you don't want to have duplicates in your applications. Or you can also do an update if you want. And then in the same way, search in Razor's Edge, and if it's not present, create it in Razor's Edge, and then go back to Salesforce and say these are the IDs of RENext and NetSuite that corresponds to this Salesforce contact, so that everyone across the organization working on different applications will understand like the linkages between all three applications, or 4 or 5, depending on how many applications you have that store constituent data. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover for this use case. So moving on to the next use case, it's about quote to cash. So syncing Salesforce orders, opportunities, into NetSuite as sales orders. And this could be like a project-based, or item-based. A similar use case to that is for e-commerce. So when someone buys something and makes an order on your e-commerce site, move that sales order data into NetSuite to manage inventory and manage shipping and delivery. So common apps we see in this like quote to cash or e-commerce use cases, again, Salesforce, Microsoft CRM Dynamics, we see Magento, we see Shopify. So over here, I do have an example of the quote to cash use case. So new close won opportunity creates a new sales order in NetSuite. So if you scroll down, you can see, this is a recipe that moves all the line items in your Salesforce into NetSuite as well. So it gets pretty, it is pretty comprehensive in the sense that you are also making sure the customer exists in NetSuite when you move the order over.
So Helen, this looks interesting, and this seems a very common use case that we see customers building out.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just walk
us through it?
Yeah, just in terms of like what the recipe is doing at each step? and how it's manipulating the data?
Definitely. So in the trigger, I think what we are seeing is that the recipe, when it's turned on, it monitors opportunities in Salesforce. And whenever it detects that the stage has been has been changed to close one, it will kick off this following actions. So this is what the if stands for. If this is a trigger condition that has been implemented, so that this recipe does not trigger all the time whenever an opportunity is updated, but it only triggers when certain conditions are met. So if you go down to the actions, you see that we are going, in step one, we pull out the list of opportunity products tied to this opportunity. Step two, we are trying to find the customer in order to create the order under this customer in NetSuite. And this whole step 3 to step 8 that I've just collapsed, it is really moving the opportunity products in Salesforce into NetSuite. So it searches for these products, it searches for the corresponding inventory item in NetSuite, and if there's none found in NetSuite, because maybe Salesforce is your master for inventory, you can add inventory item in NetSuite.
So here, what is the for each item in Salesforce object? How does that work?
So for each is kind of the Workato convention for moving through a list, for iterating through a list. So we say, in step 2, we say search opportunity products. Step 1, sorry. And what that returns us, as seen from this icon, is a list of opportunity products. So we want to go through this whole list and move it into NetSuite. So, we could do this in one single step, actually. So we could really just say, create the NetSuite order, and we pass in this whole list into NetSuite in that step, and we say, do direct mapping. I think in this recipe, we went the difficult route because we wanted to do additional logic for each and every product. So as you can see, we say in over here, we say, oh, we're going to search for this product in Salesforce and really make sure this product also exists in NetSuite. And if it doesn't, then add it first before we append the item into NetSuite. So really, we don't have to do that because in add sales order in NetSuite action, we can pass in a list of products. But this is just, steps 3 to 8 is just for a really robust experience. But if you have synced your NetSuite and Salesforce inventory products and linked them so that maybe the NetSuite external ID for inventory items are Salesforce IDs, then you don't have to do this add this robustness.
So what you're saying, if you're absolutely sure the NetSuite application has the product IDs, you don't need to have this additional check. But
That's right.
This is a good set of checks to build into the recipe, just to make sure when you're applying it in bulk, it doesn't fail.
That is right.
Okay.
And it is also, so 6 and 7 is also like used in the assumption, under the assumption that Salesforce is the master for inventory items, and therefore sometimes you might have items existing in Salesforce that are not in NetSuite. But you can eradicate those steps if NetSuite is your master for inventory systems, and I think inventory items. And I think most of the time it is true that NetSuite is the master database for that. So that's step 3. In step 9 and kind of step 10, it is also added robustness to the recipe. We really want to make sure we are not creating a duplicate sales order in NetSuite. So we say search. And if the NetSuite sales order search does not return any sales orders, we add it. Otherwise, we don't. And once you have added this sales order in NetSuite, we're going to update the opportunity in Salesforce with this sales order ID in NetSuite. And just as an extra step, we're going to post a notification in Slack saying, hey, we have this new sales order that's been created.
In this example, in whatever scenario, if the product ID did not exist in NetSuite, you could use a Slack notification to let the person know that, hey, this product ID is missing, so they could add it.
Definitely.
Okay.
So, you know, all these recipes are very much customizable, and you can simply build it according to how you would like your workflow to be like.
So Helen, we have a question in step 7. Are you adding the NetSuite ID?
In step 7. So in step 7, we are adding an inventory item in NetSuite, and if you see, we are adding the Salesforce ID into the NetSuite inventory item as the external ID. So we are creating this future linkage, this linkage for future use. So we are trying to make sure that we don't have to do this step of searching next time. We can simply say create an order with this external ID item. All right. So like I just wanted to show you in step 11 where we are passing in the list items. So this is when we're creating a sales order in NetSuite, it can take in a source list of items, and then you're passing in all this like details about the item ID, quantity, description, price that's coming in from Salesforce. So this is not my recipe. It is a community recipe that's been featured. And you know, if I wanted to use this, I can just say use this recipe, and I'll start setting it up in my own account. And once I've downloaded, installed it in my own account, I can change steps and edit it for my own use, right? I say install, but you know, as it's all cloud-based, it's really just kind of making a copy of this Workato recipe in my own account.
And just for everyone who's on this, attending this webinar, whether you're attending it fully or partially, these recipes that we are showing in this product hour will be available like in the webinar posting, and you can use it. The way it works, you can just copy, like as Hulen mentioned, you can just copy it over to your account by going through these steps. And all it requires is for you to add your connections, and it will detect this underlying schema. Wherever there's a mismatch, it will let you know. And you can customize it. It's not that it's a packaged recipe that you cannot tweak. So you can customize it to adapt to your business processes.
That's right. Thanks, Treaty. So I think this was the example of CPQ, and a similar example is e-commerce, right? So new order in Shopify is moved into NetSuite, and this is a very much simpler recipe that I've built. So searching for the customer in NetSuite, if the customer doesn't exist, then we can add it. So it's just kind of like ad hoc on the fly customer syncing between NetSuite and Shopify. And then same thing here, adding a sales order into NetSuite. So, you know, I've ran this job, I've ran this recipe a couple of times.
William, we have a question. Does Workato support token-based authentication for NetSuite?
Yes, we do. So the Workato has been certified built for NetSuite. So that's pretty cool. And we do support token-based authentication for the NetSuite connector. So if you go to connections, you can see that it's not here. But yeah, you would see that we are asking for token ID, token secret, consumer ID, consumer secret. And we do, in the documentation, we do have notes about how you can create your own tokens and create your own integration records in order to get all this data needed to connect to NetSuite.
And the token-based authentication is just a more secure way of letting third-party applications use your NetSuite, access to NetSuite, instead of the conventional username password.
That is right.
Okay.
So with token-based authentication, you don't have to give Workato your password. You just give us all the key and secret that identifies you. And based on this key and secret and the permissions you have, you will be able to read and write to the scopes you have defined for that user. So, in documentation, under connectors, under NetSuite, you'll be able to find all this detailed guide about how to connect from Workato to NetSuite. Yeah, so going back into the Shopify order to NetSuite sales order recipe, I just wanted to quickly run through like how you can review what your recipe has been doing. So in my case, you can see which Shopify order ID has been synced to which NetSuite sales order and the customer associated. And all this is highly customizable, right? So if you click on the select columns, you can see that I've customized it this way, but you can also just add a new column saying like, oh, I want to find out how much this order was. And then, get an amount from the Shopify application. And when you click through to a job, you can see exactly what has happened. So my new trigger in Shopify has all this data, this amount, this line items, and it tried to create a sales order in NetSuite with the similar like items. And this was the input Workato gave NetSuite, and this is the output. This is the internal ID of the sales order created. So, you can go very deep into everything your recipe has been doing to troubleshoot and debug and find out what data has been moved. So I think that kind of wraps it up for the CPQ and e-commerce use case. I think we kind of focused more on orders and maybe customers, but I think comprehensively you can sync products and fulfillments and inventory and like returns and credit memos as well between your e-commerce apps and NetSuite. And I think in our past recipe, we kind of showed that you can, let me go back to the recipe. So in the past recipe, we kind of have this notification posted in Slack whenever an order was created in NetSuite. But I think integrations with Slack doesn't have to stop at notifications, right? So using Workato, you can also work to pull information out from any application you have connected with Slack. So in this particular use case, what I've built is kind of a workbot command. So workbot is a little chatbot that Workato has that you can use to run Workato recipes and fetch data for you, or to create cases or tickets or customers for you. So I have a little demo right here where we can fetch NetSuite sales order details from NetSuite just from Slack. So okay, so I've asked Workbot to show me a NetSuite order, and Workbot is saying, okay, give me the order number. So I have something here. This is an order that I've just created in NetSuite. So I'm gonna give Workbot this order number, and it's gonna go and fetch details from NetSuite and push it into Slack for me. So, you know, when I'm on the go and I want to check on like payment status or customer like health, how many cases the customer has, how many sales orders they have made, I can quickly build a Workato recipe that does that and turn it on. And, you know, just ping Workbot and they will be able to fetch you data quickly wherever you are. So this is what I've customized for Workbot to fetch back for me. But you can customize this in many different ways to show the relevant information you're interested in.
So Helen,
And
in this example, like instead of having to go to NetSuite to find this order information, I can directly get it from Slack. But can I do it, can I update the order information from Slack as well?
definitely you can. So Workbot allows you to read data and also to write data. And you know, I'll show you in a little bit how the recipe looks like and how you can edit the recipe to read or write or do, you know, whatever you want. So you know, in this particular use case, I have also linked the relevant NetSuite order, so we can view it and hop straight into the NetSuite if we want to view more details or to look at it natively. So this is the order, right, with the order number, customer, etc., etc. So in the recipe, how it looks like is this is the Workbot recipe that is powering that Slack demo we just saw. So I built a command saying, okay, whenever, like telling Workbot that whenever it hears this command, it sees this command typed into Slack, NetSuite show order, this is what it would do. Search the sales orders in NetSuite by that order number, search for the customer associated with this order by entity ID, and then post a message into the Slack channel saying, here are the order number details, and here's the link that brings you right into the, NetSuite to look at this order. And here are all the fields: customer, company name, this is the total amount of this order, the order number, and the date of the order. So as you can see, this is exactly what Workbot has returned us. And you know, so if I stop this recipe, it is highly customizable. I can use it, I can edit the post command step to push data that I think my organization would be interested in, or my team would like to see. So instead of company name, I can put in first name, last name, etc.
And really, is this a trend that we are seeing with our customers that they're trying to get more and more work done from Slack or other chat applications using bots instead of having to go to like multiple applications, whether it be NetSuite, Salesforce?
So I think we do see that as you know, especially for people who are always on the go,
right,
who are traveling, who are going on site. Mobile is a very is a more common platform for them, and a lot of the times when they are like chatting with their teammate in context, they're like, check on this order, look up this customer, can you follow up on this case? We see that they have to go between 2 or 3 apps to figure out like what is the case open in maybe Zendesk, and then they track it back to what is the order in NetSuite, and then who is the customer and the account rep for that customer in Salesforce. So we see like, I think teams are hopping between systems where different data is kept and trying to kind of pull this data together to form a comprehensive image in order to do, you know, accomplish something. But what this kind of integrations does, like Slack, is it is able to pull in all the relevant information for someone to make a decision or someone to follow up on a certain problem wherever or whenever it comes up. So if 3D, you were to ping me saying, hey, can you check on this order? I think there's a problem. Very quickly, I can say, hey, Workbot, 3D mentioned this order, this order number, fetch me the data in this order, and oh, it belongs to this customer. So I might have another recipe that says, fetch me this customer data from NetSuite, or fetch me this customer data from Salesforce. So
Okay.
I don't need to do that ad hopping. I can just ask for more information right on the same screen.
So we were questioned, like, the question is, they don't use Slack, but this workflow, the ability to respond to a request, right? Like update and order information, like while they're on the go. Can they do it from email or SMS? Is that possible using Workato?
So that is possible. So what you can do is simply, instead of listening to an order in Slack Workbot, made in Slack, the trigger can be listen to an SMS sent to this certain Twilio number, or listen to this email sent to a certain email alias, and based on the data in the SMS body or the email body, carry out certain actions in Workato. So the trigger allows you really to monitor different messages from different mediums, Slack, Teams, email, SMS, and execute whatever action you want it to. And I think 3D, you were saying, like, can we write things into
back to the application,
back to NetSuite using Workbot? So you could always do that by adding a NetSuite add record action in this. Okay, so you can say, like, add a standard record. So in the trigger, right now we are asking for the order number, right? Show an order. First give me your order number for me to show you the order. But how we can tweak this recipe is that we can say the command, we can change to NetSuite create customer, NetSuite create case, NetSuite create product. And instead of asking for order number, we can say enter product name, company name, case, subject, and then create that in NetSuite for them. So Workbot is like a whole topic by itself. And we have it all on documents as well in our documentation. So if you're interested, if your company is using Slack, if it's using Teams, you're interested in trying to build something for some integrations on Workbot for your company, I think that's a very useful resource to start out with. I think it's over it has a whole section by itself. It's in Workbot for Slack. So, I think we didn't dive into this, but you could also do approval workflows from Slack. Approve a sales order, reject a request. Another quick use case I wanted to dive into is with one of our customers in Australia, I think Edible Blooms. So, they implemented Workato in a very creative way. So in NetSuite, what it did was they had a safe search that remembers all orders made last year around the same time. And so for those of you who don't know, edible blooms are like a florist and edible arrangements. So it's something you buy for a very special occasion, right? They have products that you buy for anniversaries and birthdays. So what I kind of did was have a safe search in NetSuite that pulls out all the sales orders made a year and 2 weeks ago. actually less than a year ago or something. So they pushed that data into Marketo, and they sent out an email to all these people saying, hey, it seems like a special event is near. Like, would you like to buy another gift?
So Helen, if I recall, like this was like edible blooms is like the flowers.com, only what they deliver, you can eat those. Is that the product? And in their case, like they're trying to drive loyalty or more repeat usage of their products or orders. So one day, the way they came about is with the save search at NetSuite, they figured out like if somebody had an anniversary or birthday, it would repeat the next year as well. So they created a save search to query that, and based on that, launched a campaign in Workato.
That is right. And I think, like shortly after launching that campaign, they saw an ROI of, I think, 600%.
Yeah.
Maybe not ROI, it was an increase in revenue by 600%. So I think that was pretty cool. And, that's why I kind of built this to, like, this was kind of what it did. So every day, trigger every day and pull out the save search records that you have in NetSuite. So in NetSuite, they were like same week, last fiscal year, pull out the sales orders. And so I've prepared a save search in NetSuite that does that. And I said that in this save search, I want to pull transaction, which is the sales order, and customer data, which is the join. So customer joined to the sales order. And I wanted to optimize my API call to NetSuite. So I said that fetch me only these essential things that I will use in my recipe. All other fields I don't need, don't fetch it. So I'm only getting like mobile phone, email, and I add them to Marketo. I add all these like customers to Marketo, where I will subsequently send them data. Send them an email reminding them to buy a gift for the special someone. So we have a execute save search action. We also have an execute save search trigger, which monitors a save search for any new or updated record in that save search. So new updated save search result. So whenever like a new record qualifies to be within that save search, it would trigger. Or whenever a record in that save search is updated, it would trigger. So we have a new save search result as well, which only triggers whenever a record qualifies to meet this save search criteria. So that's for save search, and for trigger and action save search, we support joins. We support the ability to pull out custom fields. Let me go back to the action. So you can select the base object of the save search and select all the joins that you would like, all the objects connected to this, associated with this base object you would like to fetch. And once you've selected it, you are then able to select the fields that you would like to see and to use in this recipe. So these are the transaction fields. These are subsequently you also see the customer fields, the customer join fields, the billing address, join fields, and everything gets selected here shows up later in the data tree for use. You can also see like you can pick custom fields, retrieve custom fields from NetSuite, and custom segment too, if I recall. Transaction custom segment fields or line item custom segment fields.
So Helen, we are close to the end of the webinar. There was a question about how Workato's NetSuite connectors, how is it different from what's available from other vendors? And I responded to that. The capabilities vary broadly depending on which vendor you're looking at. and some may support custom segments, some may support custom fields. So what we have found, the reason customers choose Workato, and especially when they're using NetSuite, like it's a combination of the capabilities of the connector and the platform. So try it out. Like we highly encourage, we have a free trial, so you could try it out and do the comparison for yourself and find out how the Workato platform and the NetSuite connector is different and helps you solve your business problems. So
I think just to add on a little bit, 3D, I think ease of use is kind of a huge factor as well. So building these integrations, as you see, can take like a quick 5 minutes. And whenever like data changes, schema changes in NetSuite, in Salesforce, in RENext, Shopify, all you have to do is click on this refresh schema, and we will be able to pull all this change schema for you into Workato to interact with. So if you have added a new custom field, you can say, okay, now I want to write to this new custom field. If it's not here, refresh the schema and you should be able to see it if you have just added it.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that allows you to easily maintain, easily build.
Well, then I'll just use the last minute to launch a quick poll to get feedback from everyone on how we can make this webinar more effective and better. So folks, please take a few seconds to respond to this quick poll. And if you have questions or suggestions on what we should include in this webinar, send us an email to success@workato.com and we will try to incorporate your suggestions. And if there are specific use cases or a problem that you're running into, we have something called an expert hour, like if you so you can register for that too and get one-on-one interaction with one of our customer success experts. So this is a webinar that enables you to understand what's possible. But once you start building it and you want to go into more advanced workflows, we have the customer success team to help you with that as well.
That's right. And if you want to get started by yourself immediately with Workato and NetSuite, you can easily create a free account in Workato and go to community recipes and look up like NetSuite recipes, or if you have a specific use case you want to search for, just type it in, and you should be able to see public recipes that other users have built and shared on the community platform. So I think 2-minute recipes kind of tags recipes that are easy to set up, easy to start using, while featured recipes might be a bit more complex, but they incorporate lots of best practices or like creative ideas, creative things users are doing with Workato. So feel free to check it out and try it out, and let us know what you think.
We say this all the time, like cooking recipes, you can start it from scratch, use exactly how it's built out by the community, or take what's built out by the community and customize it for your business processes. Whichever way you choose, the Workato will work with you and for you. So give it a try, explore, and teach us a few things as well. Thanks again for joining us, and the webinar video will be available on product.workato.com like early next week, and we'll send out a communication once it's available.
Thanks everyone for spending your early morning with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Lily.
Thanks, Shriti.